Welcome to the black screen of discussion. You know, throughout the series there have been a handful of games that I suspect some people would question. Games that don't quite feel like they belong in a countdown of great video games. Yes, they are all interactive media for the purpose of entertainment, but they seem to stretch that idea so far beyond the bounds of a traditional video game that you can't help but wonder if it's productive to classify them that way at all. Similar to if I were to list my top 10 favorite sandwiches. And in that list, I said cheeseburgers and hot dogs and cheesesteaks. It would just feel a bit off to some people. However, I have been pretty confident and happy with my inclusion of each of these games, and that goes for today's game as well. Today marks, I'm pretty sure at least, our final weirdo entry. And not only is it perhaps the weirdest, but it is also the single game on this entire countdown that I am the most embarrassed to be talking about, much less admit that I greatly enjoy. Thus, why you only get a black screen, rather than the usual footage of a game that spoils what I'm about to be talking about. I don't know where I'm going with this. Literally, as I type the words of this script, I have no clue what direction I want to go in right now. But math, as it relates to the concept of counting down on a list, dictates that I must now talk to you about VR chat. On the off chance you don't know, VR chat is a virtual space in VR filled almost entirely with user-generated content where you can inhabit basically any character you want, find any kind of world you want to be in, and hang out with friends and strangers. You can chat, you can play games, you can listen to music and watch stuff, almost all of it created by the people who play the game. It's magical. It's exactly the promise of VR that you are either excited about or dreading, depending on your perspective. I don't know how the legality of this plays out. It has to be a legal gray area of some kind for sure. But VR chat is a completely unchecked space. Some of the avatars I use most include a gonk droid from Star Wars, and this really janky chef Kermit the Frog avatar I just cloned from someone one day. As far as worlds go, I really like going to Kaine's Shack from Nier, the Lego Mos Eisley Cantina, or even Taco Bell or 7-Eleven. All of this obviously without the approval of the original rights holders and all accessed for free. Yes, I like VR chat because it gives me a fun way to spend time with friends, whether they're local or long distance. There are infinite worlds to explore and games to play, and I think it's fair to say no video game I've played fulfills the idea of escapism more than VR chat. But alongside that, I also feel a really bizarre obligation to enjoy VR chat. A profound sense that this can't last forever. One day, virtual reality spaces, or whatever they're calling them by that point, will be a far more normal part of our culture. Maybe it won't be through bulky VR goggles like we have today, but inhabiting a virtual life is clearly something we're driving towards as a society. And as soon as that idea becomes more mainstream, all of these big companies and rights holders will want a piece of that pie. I'll have to sign up for the Disney-specific virtual experience if I want to explore a Star Destroyer. I'll have to pay $10 if I want to play as Kermit, and they probably won't even offer a Chef Kermit skin. And services like VR chat will likely be labeled as competition, and one with an easily exploitable weakness with how much probably less than legal content is offered on it. Not to mention the lack of any ethical moderation. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that you can find less than wholesome spaces in VR chat quite easily. They are definitely not moderated, because freedom is kind of the point of the experience. I'm no futurist, so take this all with a grain of salt. But VR chat to me feels like something that can't exist forever. Yes, VR and AR technology will continue to improve. Future spaces won't be as janky or as visually limited as VR chat, but they'll also feel less pure. They'll be more controlled and fractured. They won't have the do whatever you want attitude that VR chat offers. Escaping into another reality is kind of the promise of video games as a whole, but it's doubly true for VR. And thanks to the boundless possibilities of VR chat and the people who built it, no VR game delivers on that promise better. There is a fun memory to take away from my time in VR chat every time I play it. I hope that this weirdly not video game centric discussion we had has helped illustrate why VR Chat is so far my favorite VR game I've ever played. A fact that will now be lovingly conveyed to you with the following visual.